The house of Judah. As foretold by the prophets of old, scattered to the four corners of the earth, in shackles and in chains, only to remain in the land of their captivity until the time of the Gentiles would be fulfilled, as foretold by Hamashiach. You see, family, in previous lessons, we showed how the Israelites of old were a black Negroid race, confirmed and verified beyond a shadow of doubt through multiple sources. For example, we can find depictions of the ancient tribe of Judah in roughly 701 BC, living close to the Gaza Strip. Depicted on the smooth walls of the Lakesh relief as a Negroid people, having short, nappy, woolly hair, as described in the Bible. We also pointed out that a secondary source consisting of cranial analysis confirmed that the ethnicity of the inhabitants of Judah and Lakesh were Egypto-Nubian people, which would be expected because Israel lived in Egypt. And yet, today we have a war by a people claiming to be Israel who don't quite look like ancient Israel, whose DNA shows them to have originated from the biblical land of Ashkenaz, the lands of Japheth, located at the foot of the Caucasus Mountains. The African Israelite Justice Foundation is not your usual legal practice. You see, we focus primarily on cases involving injustice against African Israelite groups or injustice against individuals because he or she identifies as an African Israelite or an Israelite of African descent. In other words, we are not a general legal practice. Instead, we specialize on African Israelite cases. And also, family, please keep in mind, we are a brand new organization, not affiliated with any existing organizations. However, it is our hope to establish connections with all African Israelite groups and people here in the States and around the world. Family, we need to hear your stories of injustice so that we can begin to record, investigate, and identify the enemies of Israel hiding behind the veil, and then ultimately hold them accountable in a court of law. And as stated before, we are a brand new organization with limited funds. And we are in the process of expanding our resources to further enhance our legal team, who will litigate our cases. And if you would like to join this historic cause, please share this message all over social media. Spread this message of IsraeliteJustice.org worldwide. And get this message from Kyrie to Kanye, from Whoopi Goldberg to Nick Cannon. And also share your stories of injustice or donate to the cause. And if you so choose to, you can remain anonymous and let us do all the work. After all, that's what the Israelite Justice Foundation is here for. We are here to fight for your right to be Israel. As always, thank you in advance. We appreciate you and love you, Israel. Take care, family. Shalom. Shalom, shalom, Yisrael. Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Hey, family, I know we're right smack dab in the middle of Shabbat. So I'll make this as quick as possible, family, so you can get back to your Shabbat services. Don't get in trouble for me, family. Do not get in trouble for me. Don't put this on me as far as interfering with your Shabbat lesson, family. So you can definitely put this on pause, come back to it later. But this is something major, family. This is something major. Just wanted to bring it to your attention. Therefore, you can watch this yourself. And we're going to get into it, family. We are going to get into it. But Shabbat Shalom. Hey, family, if you don't mind, just put a 1 in the chat if my audio sounds okay. I always like to do a quick audio check before we get started, because I hate to get started and you guys aren't able to hear me. So while that's being confirmed, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my good old PowerPoint, and I'm going to switch over to C1s. Thank you, family. All right, so I'm going to switch over to YouTube just to make sure everything looks good. There we go. Thank you, fam. All right, Shabbat Shalom. All right. Well, just to give a quick recap of where we are today, family. So if you don't know, all the stuff that's going on over in the land of Yisrael, I believe as we're meeting today, there's a body of Arabs and Muslim leaders that are meeting over in Saudi Arabia, and this is monumental in itself as well. They're meeting for some of these people are getting together for the first time in years that they haven't saw eye to eye on certain things. So it's been difficult to get these leaders into the same room together. But based off of what the nation state of the Israelis are doing, these Muslims and Arabs are coming together. They're galvanizing, family. They are coming together. And yes, this is biblical. This is stuff that that people are struggling to find out where exactly we are in the book, right? Where what scriptures accurately describe what's happening today, and everyone's throwing out their own verses and books and scriptures, and I've done the same thing as well. I'm sure as some of your other Mores and Zakim have done as well, or Moraz as well. But with all that being said, family, we know that we are truly in the last days, and it's a blessing to be a part of the awakening. It's a blessing to be a part of these end time events. With that being said, family, just to kind of tee this up. So we know that last year was a monumental year, especially around October. October was when we had we were on the tail end of the Kanye West explosion in the media, right? And then that led into the Kyrie Irving explosion in the media, and the quickening of the awakening, because especially the Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, that event went nationwide, not necessarily worldwide, I would say, but more nationwide. And nationwide within this, so-called United States, there was a quickening of the awakening. We had family and friends and relatives reaching out to us who hadn't reached out to us in a long time, wanting to talk about this thing called Israelites. Who are the Hebrew Israelites? Why is Kyrie getting persecuted? They're talking about this movie, Hebrews and Negroes, being so bad, and people were going out to check it out, and then it wasn't as bad as they thought, and then they're trying to figure out what's this thing that it's a dirty word they're throwing around, anti-Semitism and anti-Semitism that, anti-Semitism this, and they were weaponizing this term, family, to one, go after people's jobs, going after their income, and they were using that actually in the background to come up with some certain laws. Certain laws were trying to be spun up even as we speak, in trying to get spun up to defend this made up term, anti-Semitism, right? And so they were using, like I said, they were weaponizing this term, and it was bandied about all over the world, right? And people were, were trying to figure out, like, what is this, and why is Kyrie getting suspended? Why is he being given like these 5-6 steps to return, which were absolutely ridiculous steps when you took a look at it, right? Just trying to make him bend his knee and kiss the hand, in my opinion. And so that was an explosion that had happened, social media / mainstream media explosion that happened at the tail end of last year, right? And so fast forward to this year, so here we are, we're roughly a year later, a year later after all that stuff's happened. Now we're in the midst of a, what appears to be a ramp up to World War III. We're right on the precipice, as far as we can tell. We don't know if it's going to be a month from now, 2 years from now, who knows? But all we know is that we see this biblical building up of nations, all in and around the nation state of Israel, or the nation state of Israel. I always try to be careful how I term those people in that place over there, but we'll just call it the nation state of Israel. Which leads us to this, and just bear with me just for a second, family. I'm just going to hop back over and just make sure that we are live. All right, so we're live, we're good. All right. So, and go back over to PowerPoint. Which leads us to this, family. So everyone, you probably, to this point, you've already heard about, let me see if I can advance the slide. There we go. You've already heard about the Nation of Islam / Louis Farrakhan, Honorable Louis Farrakhan, suing the ADL as well as some other entities, right? It wasn't just the ADL that they were suing, but the ADL was first and foremost mentioned in their lawsuit at the tune of $4.8 billion. So that $4.8 billion got the attention of mainstream media, right? And you started probably seeing people mention this, and all over the place. And this is monumental, Finn. This is a monumental lawsuit that's going forth into federal court. It's not state court. This is going into federal court. But what I want to bring to your attention, family, is not everyone, but a lot of people are bringing up this lawsuit, right? But no one up to this point took a look underneath the covers to see exactly what they're suing for, why they're suing, and what is going to be discussed in the court, hallelujah, in front of a judge and jury that they're going to have to prove before a federal court. Hallelujah. You can probably understand where I'm going with this. All right. How about this, family? What I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over and just kind of tee this up. I'm going to share another video with you, just so that you can get some background, so we can get some background information on the Nation of Islam, what they believe, or at least what Minister Farrakhan believes and what he teaches. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a video for you. I'm probably not going to play the whole thing, but just part of the video. And yeah, we'll talk about it on the back end of this video. So hang on, let me see if I can add this to the stream.
I don't want to waste any time. I asked the question, who are the real children of Israel? And I'd like to answer it right away.
Go ahead, dear minister.
Like any good lawyer in a courtroom,
Talk, man.
he tells you what he's going to prove.
All right.
And then he goes ahead and proves it and let the jury make the decision. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has said that Almighty God, Allah, revealed to him that the black people of America are the real children of Israel. And we are the choice of God.
That's right.
And that unto us he will deliver his promise.
That's right.
This question says that somebody
Yes, sir.
has usurped our position.
Okay. Hang on, Lewis. Hang on, my Minister Farrakhan. Hang on. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause it right there. But I just wanted to give you an idea and an understanding of where the Nation of Islam is in their understanding of how can I put it? In their understanding of the children of Israel, right? The children of Israel. All right. So now that you understand where Louis Farrakhan is coming from, the Minister Farrakhan is coming from, and thank you to brothers and sisters in the chat for the super chat. Thank you, TK. Thank you. Appreciate it. Janae Israel, shalom. And being change. Shalom. Appreciate the support. Thank you. But all right, family. Well, let's get back over to. Let me see if I can bring back the. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm going to bring back. This PowerPoint slide. Hang on. All right, so we got that. And like I said, that it's real interesting, family, that all this is coming together now in these last days. Like, well, all this stuff is taking place over in Israel. The month of October has been have been a very eventful October, to say the least. We have with the stuff going on over in Israel, and then in the background, we have this lawsuit, this major lawsuit that's going forward. All right, share that. Yeah, bear with me just for a second, family. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip over to, let's see, share screen, window, PowerPoint. All right. And I'm going to pull up my controls. Hang on. Almost there, family. Almost there. Just trying to make sure I have my PowerPoint controls up. There we go. All right, so I got it up. Let me just hop back over to YouTube to make sure it looks right. All right, everything looks good. Okay. All right, so here we are. $4.8 billion lawsuit is in place. And the question is, family, what exactly are they suing for? Why are they suing? So for that, we're going to take a look at the actual court papers that were filed. And this is just from some background information. So that clip that I showed you where Minister Farrakhan was talking about, we are coming from the children of Israel, or the so-called African Americans are the true children of Israel. That teaching or lesson was given during the time when this book came out. So the Nation of Islam came out with this book called The Secret Relationship Between the Blacks and the Jews. And I believe this came out in the early 1990s. And this book, family, has a lot of information. They had their scholars, their researchers go out and grab those old books that I was kind of always telling you about, those books where the publication dates are older than the 1800s. They went and did that, family. And they went directly to the primary sources, pulled those primary sources, some of which I'm still trying to track down myself. And through the primary sources, they were able to prove some major revelations in that book. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, definitely see if you can track down a copy and take a look at it. But as far as present day, family, so this what you're seeing on the screen is some of the court filing paperwork that's associated with that $4.8 billion lawsuit against ADL and a handful of people and organizations. So as you can see on the screen, family, it says, in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York. So this is going before the federal court in New York. And, Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, they are listed as the plaintiffs. And you see that Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, Rabbi Abraham Cooper, and, this center that's a part of it, they are named as the defendants. So here's the rub, family. So if you take a look on your screen, you'll see the issues. We start to dig into the issues that and the reasons why they're bringing this lawsuit forward, and family, what will be argued before the federal court. What will be argued before the federal court? Let's take a look, family. Let's read. It says, this lawsuit is to ensure that the abuse, misuse, and false use of the terms anti-Semite and anti-Semitic and anti-Semitism as falsely charged by the defendants is permanently barred from being a tool to defame plaintiffs and infringe upon the constitutional rights. Hallelujah. Let that sink in, family. So before, what they're doing, family, is they're bringing before the courts this application of this term anti-Semitism. Because you know what they do, family? You know what these people do? They go and get anti-Semitism. They use anti-Semitism to go after people, to call people, to try to go after their finances, to try to blackball them, to try to get their books pulled from stores and stuff like that. And Most High willing, we'll have Brother Ron Dalton on tomorrow so that he can share some additional testimony as far as, give you an update, as far as his movie status in South Africa, and possibly maybe he'll be willing to talk about some of the other challenges that he's having over here in the States, because family, they're not stopping. The enemies of Israel are not stopping. If anything, family, as you can tell with the war and all this other stuff, family, it's ramping up, right? It is ramping up. But this lawsuit, family, and as far as what they're going to be arguing before the court, is anti-Semitism. So we take a look, family, and they kind of list out some of their arguments and reasonings, why this should be barred, why it should be banned, right? And I'm going to advance here, and this is on a part in the documentation that says facts. And this is what they're bringing before the court, family. And it says, the issue becomes what defendant ADL defines as anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism. Webster Dictionary, the leading dictionary in America, defines the word Semite as a member of any of a number of peoples of ancient Southwestern Asia, including the Akkadians, the Phoenicians, Hebrews, and Arabs. Based upon the definition of the word Semite from the nearly 200-year-old Webster Dictionary, it says multiple groups of people are historically and legitimately described under the title Semite. So in court, family, they might be, it's like they're going to be talking about who's a Semite in court, before the court. And it says, by definition, anyone who is labeled anti-Semite would be a person who dislikes, hates, and or attacks a person or persons of one of the multiple groups of people who have historically and legitimately been defined as Semite. In section 18.3, it says, defendant ADL, however, has crafted its own definition of the word Semite and Semitic to mean only those who identify as Jewish. So before the court, they're going to show that the ADL, they're misapplying, and this term, anti-Semitic, before the court. And this is something that Kyrie, brother Kyrie Irving was kind of alluding to in some of his press conferences, in my opinion. But let's keep going, family. It says, no one group of people own the word Semite, because for thousands of years it has belonged and still belongs to multiple groups of people. In fact, any one group of people who seeks to ascribe solely to itself the label Semite, to the exclusion and denial of the other multiple groups of Semitic people, is in fact being anti-Semitic. That is a court argument, family. That is a court argument. So you can almost see how the ADL has painted themselves into a corner with this usage and this weaponization of the term anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism in the way that they're using it. And then we'll pause here just for a moment, but let's just read this last little section. It says, nevertheless, defendant ADL has ascribed to itself the ability to make up a new definition for the words anti-Semitic and anti-Semite, or anti-Semite and anti-Semitic and anti-Semitism, and has sought to impose. I think I may have cut off that other. I think I cut off that other one. Let me see here. And sought to impose its arbitrary definition on the public and executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government, including their respective government agencies. Now, as we kind of move through this, family, what you're going to see is that, it's almost like step one, they're going to address this use of anti-Semitism. Step two is they're going to describe to the court why it's important that they bring up this use and abuse of the word anti-Semitism. And you'll probably get shocked here, family, because they go into detail, and this is some of this detail that they're getting ready to go into. I had no idea, family. And it is alarming when I won't spoil it for you. When we read it, family, it is alarming, right? And you'll see the need for this to be in front of a court. And I'm most appreciative of these brothers for bringing this out. But let me just take a quick pause here. I'm just going to hop back over in the live to see if there's any questions about that. It says, not a fan of Kyrie, but the ADL fumbled the ball with him. The Most High used that entire thing and it went viral. That's true. That is so true. And it's one of those things, family, where it looks as though the ADL overreacted, right? They went so hard on Kyrie. They went so hard on Kanye that jolted. It almost seemed as though it jolted the so-called African-American community awake. Like, what's going on? Why is this group attacking us? Who is this group? Who is the ADL? And that's one thing that I said. I was like, man, who's the ADL? I had no idea who those guys were until they started coming after Kyrie and started imposing all these unfair restrictions and obligations on folks that said certain things. And then when they started rolling out their own definition of anti-Semitism, that's when people had even more questions. Yep, it backfired. It totally backfired on them. And they were calling things anti-Semitism, such as, like, if someone were to say that the Jews run Hollywood, and this is funny, family, because I don't really see anybody bringing this point up, but they'll say, yeah, if you say the Jews run Hollywood, you're being anti-Semitic. But here's the funny part about it, family. Whenever you get a chance, if you look up, and I believe the name is Motion Picture Museum. So they went out and created a motion picture museum. And yes, there's a fee if you want to go into the museum. And the purpose of the museum is to show the history of motion pictures and show who's running it. And it's funny because when they first built and created the museum, they actually, the ADL was doing their thing, and they was like, hey, leave the Jews out. So they actually left the Jews out. And family, the Jews were upset. They got pissed. They made them go back and redo it and inserted the Jewish founders into the history of that museum. Not only that, they were then made a permanent exhibit at the museum. Like they are the one and only permanent exhibit in this motion picture museum, where it talks about the great influencers of Hollywood, who runs Hollywood, right? And like I said, family, so they're charging for this, and they're listed in there. And to add the icing to the cake is that the ADL's own CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt, even went as far as to write an opinion piece in the Hollywood Reporter, talking about the museum, talking about how these guys were the progenitors of motion pictures and how important they are. And you could tell he's kind of trying to straddle the fence as far as like not going too far as giving them too much props. But in either case, he had to, right? He had to, and he did in that opinion piece. We haven't really brought that out. But the whole point is, family, is that they have a museum that talks about how the Jewish run Hollywood, and they created it. It's their museum, and they charge money to it. But what they're doing is turning around and saying and calling anyone that says it out loud, hey, you're an anti-Semite. But they're not considered anti-Semitic for creating that museum. They created a whole museum. So this sort of stuff was things that started bubbling up. People started having questions about. People started seeing the hypocrisy about. And this is why, when you bring this before a court, they are going to have problems with it. Family, they are going to have problems with it. So just to bring it back to to this court case. So they are bringing before the court the definition of anti-Semitism and the use of anti-Semitism. And what we're going to see next, family, is why they have to address it, because it is so important, because it affects, people, especially people in the states that are people of color. All right, so if we keep going, family, it says, moreover, irrespective of the truth of any statement made that it does not like on its website, it says, defendant ADL lists the following tropes that, from its perspective, would warrant the label anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic, if someone used any one of them. And this is kind of like what we were talking about, where it says, Jews have too much power. Jews are disloyal. Jews are greedy. Jews killed Jesus. If really, fam, is that Jews use Christian blood for religious spirituals, Holocaust didn't happen, and anti-Zionism. This is all from the ADL's website. And it says, the arbitrary and expanding list of what the defendant ADL determines to be instances of anti-Semitism amplifies the perspective of one writer who wrote anti-Semite used to mean a man who hated Jews. Now it means a man who is hated by Jews, right? And then it says several of the Minister Farrakhan's studied ministers have been falsely labeled. And so he's saying that, hey, the reason why we're bringing it up is because they use that on us, right? They use that on, the Nation of Islam, right? And let's see here, family. It says falsely identifying and labeling someone as an anti-Semite, as anti-Semitic, and exposing anti-Semitism are not opinions. They are statements. They are statements of fact that are capable of being proved false. These false labels of anti-Semite, anti-Semitic, and anti-Semitism is specific language that has a precise meaning that is readily understood by anyone who hears it and anyone who reads it. And this is what, like I said, what Kyrie Irving was trying to convey during his interviews, because he was like, how can I be anti-Semitic if I know who I am, right? And it says the context in which the false labels and statements appear indicate to the hearer or the reader that the statement is fact. A reasonable hearer or reader would conclude that the false statements of anti-Semite, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic, anti-Semitism, and articles conveying such false statements were conveying facts about the plaintiffs. All right. So I know they kind of get into the legal stuff, but at the end of the day, family, they're addressing this use of the term anti-Semitism. But let's take a look to see why it's important to address it, family. Because to understand why it's important to address it, you need to understand what the ADL is doing with it. That's important. You need to see what the ADL is doing with it. They're not just the stuff that you see on social media. Like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like when they try to, work with folks to come up with 6 steps to come back to a basketball team, or contact a company to have them to drop a person, because he spoke out. That's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just a tip. And let's take a look at some of the other stuff that the Nation of Islam kind of brought out in their complaint. It says the words and deeds of, I'm just reading the green part. This is specific title hearing. Okay, so they're talking about a certain hearing that took place. It says in 197, the specific title of the hearing was the countering violent extremism, terrorism, and anti-Semitic threats in New Jersey. Right. So they always have these terms of violence and terrorism, and believe it or not, family, what they do is they lump, I'm using their terms now, they lump Black Hebrew Israelites in that same group, family. There's a report that came out, I believe it was in the 80s, 1980s. They call it Project Megiddo, right? And in this project, they did the same thing. They were listing all these groups, these potential, terrorist, dangerous groups here in the United States. And guess who was on the list? Black Hebrew Israelites. Hadn't done anything terroristic to date, right? But somehow, some way, they were listed on the group with the likes of the Ku Klux Klan and the Proud Boys and all these other organizations that have been proven to have done violence and have proven to have committed murders and all this other stuff. But they felt the need to put Black Hebrew Israelites on this list. And then you may ask them, well, how did they get on the list in the first place? In comes the ADL and Southern Poverty League, or Southern Poverty, SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. Those groups, both of which were founded by Ashkenazi Jews, by the way, both of them. So, family, this is why it's important, because what they're doing is that it is the ADL and friends that are adding groups like the Black Hebrew Israelites onto these lists of extremists, violent extremists. They're putting them on these lists, even though we don't have a history of that, right? We don't have lessons of doing violence. That's what I tell people. There's no lessons going forth of Hebrew Israelites doing violence. That's not even a part of our doctrine, right? For those of us, we go by Torah. Torah doesn't tell folks to go out and commit murder, right? That's not a thing, right? But they try to portray, the organizations, the people that are of that faith as being, of that mindset, which is a total lie, and which is defamation of character, which is something that you can bring before the court and praise the Most High for allowing us to put together the African Israelite Justice Foundation for doing things such as that, Most High willing. But here we are, family, just continuing with what the Nation of Islam is doing, because what they're doing, family, is they're going before and they're kind of like laying out the roadmap of how to get this stuff done. And so they said that it says, like, the words and the deeds of the defendant, Greenblatt, and the ADL are not just the words and deeds of an individual or organization, but are the words and deeds that carry weight of acting under the color of law, right? And you might say, why are they saying acting under the color of law? Let's see here. It says, defendant ADL has a long history of performing functions at every level of government, federal, state, and local. Let me say that again. Defendant ADL has a long history of performing governmental functions at every level of government, federal, state, and local. Get this, family. It says the training of law enforcement officers in a governmental function, and by its own admission, on its official website, defendant ADL claims to have at least 15,000 law enforcement personnel per year, or trains at least 15,000 law enforcement personnel. Why is the ADL training law enforcement, family? Why are they training law enforcement personnel? I thought law enforcement personnel got their instructions from the law, but the ADL is over there training them. And I have to tell people that the ADL is a racist organization. Their birth, the way that they came into being was a racist situation. This was in 1913 when Leo Frank was convicted of murdering a 13-year-old girl called Mary Fagan. And during the trial, it was called the B'nai B'rith. That was the name of the organization. Leo Frank was a president of B'nai B'rith, or Birth, or however you pronounce it. And so when he got convicted, his organization, B'nai B'rith, then created the Anti-Defamation League. And how we can say with a matter of fact that they are a racist organization based off of the court records. When you look at the court records of the B'nai B'rith team, they use the N-word throughout the court case. When they were talking about the so-called black man in the United States, they were talking about the black person, and they insinuated and suggested that black people were murderers and all kinds of low bottom of the barrel people. And that was in the court records. And then those people turned around and created the ADL. That's why I say, family, their birth is, it should be an offense to black folks to have the ADL, come around and, first of all, they never apologized for it. They never acknowledged it, right? They always kind of put it underneath the covers. They lie about it. They go into platforms like the Breakfast Club, and right off the rip, they start lying. When they asked about, hey, how did the ADL come into existence? Very first thing he did, he lied. He said, hey, this is Jonathan Greenblatt, and I'm paraphrasing. It's like, oh yeah, the ADL came into existence when a Jewish man, Leo Frank, he was wrongly convicted, and he was murdered. Well, the problem with that statement was that he wasn't murdered until like 1915 or 1914, but the ADL came into existence in 1913. So he doesn't know his own history, or he just flat out lied coming out the gate, right? And that's the things that we're trying to bring out. But getting back to this, family, so the thing that's going forth in this $4.8 billion lawsuit, they are challenging this term, this definition of anti-defamation. Of anti-Semitism. And the reason why they're challenging it is because they're saying that, hey, this group that's coming out and defining anti-Semitism, the reason why we need to address it is because they're training police officers. That's then going into the black community and implementing this training, whatever training that they got. We don't know what training they put forward. We have an idea because when we look at this examples like I brought forward earlier, like Project Megiddo, where it was the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law Center told the FBI that, hey, these black Hebrew Israelites need to be on the list, even though they don't have a history of violent extremism in the U.S. But they sought to put us on the list right next to the Proud Boys and the Ku Klux Klan, who have had a history of violent altercations. We need to address this. We need to address this. So that's why, family, this case that's getting ready to go forward before the federal courts is an important case. We're not Islamic people of the Islamic faith, right? We're of the Israelite faith. Just want to make sure that everyone knows that, just because I play a video of Louis Farrakhan, we're not promoting that ideology on this platform, but I put it out there just so that you can see where they're coming from. But we are 100% Israelites, right? That's who we are. That's what we believe. So, but in either case, family, we need to watch. I would strongly encourage us to watch what's going on in this court case. And I can tell you that from an organization perspective, like from organizations like the African Israelite Justice Foundation, who at some point, most high willing, and that's provided they don't press the big red button between now and then, we have aspirations, family, of fighting on the behalf of Israel and bringing this sort of stuff that they're doing forward and holding them accountable in a court of law, because it's going to be problematic for them to defend this in the court of law. It's a very slippery slope that they started on, and they have plenty of videos of them incriminating themselves all over the place that we've already got. So just letting you know. But all right, family, but let's just finish this up, family. Like I said, I don't want to keep you too long. I'll let you get back to your Shabbat lesson. And thank you so much, family, for taking the time to dial in. But just like I said, this is major important, family. I know folks have brought this out in the news and in chats and stuff like that, but no one's really talked about what they're suing for. They're suing for anti-Semitism, this application of anti-Semitism, and then they're listing out the reason why, right? And one of the reasons why that we just read was that, one, they're training law enforcement. And then it says, like, was it 20.1? It says, defendant ADL engages in joint law enforcement training sessions with the FBI. Defendant ADL represents itself as the nation's top non-governmental law enforcement training organization. Did that sink in, fam? Defendant ADL represents itself as the nation's top non-governmental law enforcement training organization on issues of implicit bias, hate crimes. Really? Hate crimes? Has the ADL talked about train the law enforcement to leave Black folks alone, to not do racial profiling? Was this before or after George Floyd? Come on, family. So the fact that they have their hands in the training of law enforcement and Black folks are not seeing any sort of relief. If anything, we're seeing things continue. We need to ask questions as far as what they're training them, how they're training them, and why they're training them. Because at first, if you ask me, family, they shouldn't be training them in the first place. They are a racist organization that was created when they couldn't blame the murders of Leo Frank on two innocent Black folks. And that's not me talking. That's the family, the living descendants of Mary Fagan, their family that's around today. That's what they say on their website. So the victims say that the shame on the ADL because they continue to try to blame the crimes of Leo Frank on two innocent Black folks. Right. So that's what they say. But anyway, let's keep going. It says 20.4, it says defendant ADL has a law enforcement advisory committee that meets regularly with the FBI. Defendant ADL indicates that as of 2018, in New York and New Jersey, it has trained 1,280 law enforcement officials in recognizing and preventing extremism. And like I said, extremism that the ADL lists Black Israelites on that extremism list, and the ADL is training them. Come on, family. This needs to be brought up in court. And it says, additionally, as of 2018, defendant ATL has trained 1,500 officials from law enforcement. Okay, we already read that. All right, so just to wrap this up, family, like I said, I don't want to keep you too long. It says, additionally, as of upon information and belief, the Law Enforcement Advisory Committee meets with high-ranking law enforcement officials where they receive directives, family. They receive directives from defendant ADL and or where defendant ADL frames law enforcement policies and objectives. According to defendant ADL, in 1998, they created the Law Enforcement Society. It was called LEASE program in Washington, D.C., working with the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. And since its establishment, defendant ADL asserts that it has trained more than 100,000 law enforcement officers. Come on. We need to get them out of there, family. Need to bring them to court and get these guys out of there. And since they've been training, family, how has police brutality been in the Black community? Since they've been training them, family, how has racial profiling been in the Black community? Since they've been training. Let's keep it real, family. It says, according to defendant ADL's website, every new FBI special agent must go through this training, which has also become standard protocol for several major metropolitan police forces. The Department of Homeland Security and the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, federal agencies whose agents are trained in the program include the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, U.S. Secret Services, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, while local departments include the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, Philadelphia Police Department, and dozens more. LEASE has also been incorporated into the curriculum of the FBI National Academy, the FBI National Executive Institution, and the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Seminar. In addition to the original program, LEASE is also now offered in Houston, Los Angeles, Nassau County, Seattle, St. Louis, and Tampa. Oh, Tampa. And then it says the scope, depth, and breadth of the defendant ADL's substantial intertwining with law enforcement training at the federal, state, and local levels is staggering. Defendant ADL, under the color of law, carries out these governmental functions, including investigating, spying, law enforcement training, and reporting on alleged crimes. And upon information and belief, federal, state, and local agencies not only rely upon the defendant ADL spying and investigating, but also shares information with them. And let's see here if I can just skip these last two sections here. It says, and it's they're kind of tying, and they're tying this all together, right? So they first started off by talking about anti-Semitism and the way that they're not using this term appropriately or accurately, and how they're making up their own definition, and how they're actually being anti-Semites when they apply it to people that are Semites, right? And then in this next section, they're showing why it's important to address it, because the Anti-Defamation League, they're all over the place when it comes to law enforcement, training, required training, family, right? Police enforcement, police officers and stuff like that. And then they're just tying this all together and says defendant ADL is in effect a governmental funded functionary of the U.S. government that has utilized its authority under the color of law to label Minister Farrakhan an anti-Semite and in turn deprive him of constitutional guarantees. So then after that, I believe they start going into some of the constitutional infringements. It says, so this is something that we have seen also, family. It says, upon information and belief, defendant ADL became aware of the Nation of Islam's August 20th, 2023 application for the rental of the center. So basically, they wanted to have a function in a certain place, right? Listen, it says, upon information and belief, defendant ADL used its power and authority to deprive its close association with the federal government to pressure Morgan State to reject the application that would have allowed Minister Farrakhan to speak on his campus and to associate and assemble with them and their students. So you can see that in the background, they're going around trying to use this term, this weaponized term, anti-Semitism, to prevent and to punish groups, right, from being able to exercise their First Amendment right. And that's why they're bringing this to court. And I can tell you, family, this has happened to us Israelites as well. We have proof. We have proof of that. So, like I said, I think I only have a couple more slides, and I'm going to actually, that might be it, family. But with all that being said, family, that's why this is a major, this is a major case that's going before the federal court in New York. Yeah. And so, they are crafty snakes indeed. Crafty snakes indeed. Yeah, just reading some of the comments. Yep, Sister Cassandra. Yep, freedom of speech is blocked. Yep. Yep, freedom of speech is blocked. I think I put that one up. And also, thank you, family. Thank you for all those that have donated in the chat here. Thank you, Sister Ann. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Jamila R. Rivera. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for your donation. Thank you, everyone. All right, family. Well, like I said, I'll let you get back to your Shabbat. Hopefully, you're having a great Shabbat, fellowshipping with family and friends, getting ready to eat. So, but this is going to be one of those landmark cases, family. This is a landmark case. I know everyone's kind of focusing on like the $4.8 million or $1 billion. Family, they are putting anti-Semitism on the stands. They are putting the ADL on the stands. And this doesn't include, this does not include the Israelite community. So, like I said, I believe that the Israelite community's grievances are stronger, are much larger, right? And our case is stronger. I'll just put it to you that way. And our purse would be much bigger. So whatever the Nation of Islam is suing for, our purse would be way bigger than $4.8 billion, just to let you know. So hallelujah, most high willing. Like I said, we'll see how things goes, family, but all this stuff going on in the Middle East, you never know. So we get the word to leave. I'm on it, most high willing. We're going to be on that first ship out. So, all right. Well, love you, family. Hey, thanks for hopping in, for joining. Like I said, just I pray that you enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Thank you for those who support it. And Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom. Peace and blessings.
The African Israelite Justice Foundation is not your usual legal practice. You see, we focus primarily on cases involving injustice against African Israelite groups or injustice against individuals because he or she identifies as an African Israelite or an Israelite of African descent. In other words, we are not a general legal practice. Instead, we specialize on African Israelite cases. And also, family, please keep in mind, we are a brand new organization, not affiliated with any existing organizations. However, it is our hope to establish connections with all African Israelite groups and people here in the States and around the world. Family, we need to hear your stories of injustice so that we can begin to record, investigate, and identify the enemies of Israel hiding behind the veil, and then ultimately hold them accountable in a court of law. And as stated before, we are a brand new organization with limited funds, and we are in the process of expanding our resources to further enhance our legal team
who will litigate our cases. And if you would like to join this historic cause, please share this message all over social media. Spread this message of IsraeliteJustice.org worldwide. And get this message from Kyrie to Kanye, from Whoopi Goldberg to Nick Cannon. And also share your stories of injustice or donate to the cause. And if you so choose to, you can remain anonymous and let us do all the work. After all, that's what the Israelite Justice Foundation is here for. We are here to fight for your right to be Israel. As always, thank you in advance. We appreciate you and love you, Israel. Take care, family. Shalom.